two.
All right, welcome to today's training. This is going to be about having a new assignment, but particularly the new assignment of a night custodian. So if you have just been promoted to the night custodian of an elementary school, and this would apply for a junior high as well, but really this is more for your elementary night custodian. Or if you've been a night custodian for some time in an elementary school and you're moving to a newer school or another school, this will hopefully help you a little bit. So let's get going. So a new assignment and a new building. You'll see by this picture, we've got this gigantic facility. And this poor little dude down here going, what's going on, man? This thing's huge. And, you know, quite often we will move from a building that we're very familiar with and that seems pretty easy into something that upon first glance, it's just huge and overwhelming. The best advice we can give you is take it a process at a time. And we'll kind of go through these processes, but just because something looks big and overwhelming does not mean that it's going to be that way. If you break it down into the processes of the way you do your job, everything will be just fine. So first off, your crew. So you're going to have a new crew. You're going to have some new people. Maybe you know some of the people you'll be working with, but chances are you won't. Your head custodian will be new to you. The sweepers will be new to you. Our advice is get to know the person. Get to know them individually. Do a little bit of talking with them and find out what their interests are. Just kind of get to know more about them. Not necessarily become their friend, so to speak, but at least get to know who they are at the core and make a connection with them so that you have a decent working relationship with them. You don't want to go in and try and reinvent the wheel in a building and go in and I'm going to take over everything, and you certainly don't want to go in and be the authoritarian. Well, I'm here and now things are going to change. No, you want to observe. You want to observe. You want to see what the crew does, how they do it. You want to make these personal connections with them. You want to do it fairly quickly, you know, first couple of days, but you also want to look for their strengths. Now, I know you're a brand new night custodian. You've just been promoted, and there's so much to take in. But one of the most important things you can do is realize that every one of your employees has some strengths. They all have weaknesses too. Hopefully they're different weaknesses than, hopefully everybody has different weaknesses and different strengths, but look for those useful strengths that you can use as you are putting together a successful team in your building. Keep in mind, whether you are like this gentleman here, this seasoned old custodian that's obviously been around a lot of years, or if you are brand new, fresh out of high school, and now you are a night custodian, keep in mind that you are a mentor. That in the Salt Lake City School District, a contract custodian really means a commitment to a career. And it's not just a job. Okay, we don't look at it that way. We look at it as a very important professional career, because that is exactly what it is. And part of that is you are a mentor. So when it comes to your sweepers, be kind. That doesn't mean be their best friend. Be friendly to them, but don't be the friend. And I think we all know what that means. Be accountable. So when the head custodian talks to you about things that maybe are not going right, or some things you need to do better on, or some things that you've missed, be accountable. Be responsible. Well, I'm sorry, I missed that. You're correct. I will make sure I take care of that in the future. And also hold others accountable. Hold your sweepers accountable. Make sure that they are given assignments, and then you need to follow up and make sure that those assignments are taken care of. Okay? Very important part of being a mentor. Now, your primary role as a night custodian. This particular picture here, well, it inspired me because you can see that if you look at this train engine going across the tracks, I liken that to the head custodian. And the head custodian has got the job of hauling this heavy weight across this chasm of, well, the workday, the average workday. What is your role here? Your role is to be the support. That's what the bridge is. The bridge is the support that helps the head custodian to do their job. Now, I'm going to give you a secret that not your head custodian has flaws. They do. They have flaws. They're not perfect. They are just like every other human being. They've got their strengths and they've got their weaknesses. They're not always right. There's going to be things that they do, or processes that they do, or things that they say that are going to turn out to not be right. But let me tell you what, no matter what you perceive from your supervisor, they are still the boss. So they're not always right, but they are always the boss. So what that means is never belittle. There's going to be opportunities with sweepers, sometimes with teachers, sometimes with substitutes that come in the building, whoever, where there's opportunities to complain about, well, my head custodian doesn't do this and my head custodian doesn't do that, and they've never shown me this, and blah, blah, blah. Never belittle your supervisor. Never belittle your head custodian. First of all, you never know what challenges they're having to face. And like I said, they have strengths and they have weaknesses as well, okay? And you're there just to support them. So you don't get involved with the let's tear down the head custodian now thing. You always want to build them up. You always want to look at their positive things that they bring to you. And you want to learn from them. You want to learn the good and the bad. I had some great supervisors over the years that taught me a lot of good things about mentoring, about how to do my job, about how to do things correctly. And then I had some supervisors that, I hate to say it, but they were really good because they were so bad. I had some that were very lazy, and I did have some that were just would tell you to do insane things, like use vinegar, water, and soap, neutral cleaner, and a wax, and mix that together and wax the floor, and then burnish it. Oh my gosh. Ooh, yeah, that guy was a treat, but he was still the boss, and so I did exactly as he asked me to do because I'm the subordinate, and that's my job, is to support that head custodian. Even though they were wrong, I still was there to do what the head custodian told me I needed to do. Okay, but what I learned from that is that when I had opportunities to be on my own and be my own supervisor, my own head custodian, I learned there were certain things that I wasn't going to do because I had learned these are bad. These are bad habits. These are bad things. So no matter what, or no matter who you work for, you're going to learn both good and bad, and take those lessons with you through your career. So let's talk a little bit about the top priorities of a night custodian. Supervising sweepers is really your top priority. I know, wow, I thought I was just going to be this janitor all my life. Well, sorry. In the Salt Lake City School District, we don't have janitors. Maybe we forgot to tell you that. We don't. We have professional building managers, or facility managers, whatever you want to call it, but certainly not janitors. So if your idea of working with the Salt Lake City School District on a little bit higher level is just coming in and doing your thing and not having to bother with subordinates, you're in the wrong place, because it is very important that you supervise, that you mentor. We're going to come back to that a lot, that word mentor, that you mentor those sweepers. You never know when that sweeper that you are working with will someday be a head custodian or someday be your supervisor. It's happened a lot. So besides supervising your sweepers, the top priority in the building is getting the trash out. It's very important that for sanitation reasons, that all of the trash get out of the building every night. So top priority is to make sure that gets done. Well, you don't have to do that personally. That's why you have sweepers, is your sweepers can help you take care of that. So if for some reason you don't have sweepers at any given time, you're obviously going to have to take care of that trash, but that is number one priority, getting that out of the building. And then as a night custodian, cleaning the restrooms, that would be kind of the next highest priority. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to go in and do a thorough, all over job in the restroom. We used to call it giving it a lick and a promise. I know that's a terrible term, but seriously, when you're short-handed, there are things you can cut corners on in a restroom for a day and still be okay. You still obviously want to make sure things are wiped down, the floor is swept, but things like dusting, changing lights, wiping all of the walls down, those sorts of things can go for a night if you are in a huge hurry because you are short on sweepers. But keep in mind that the toilets need to be flushed. They do need to be sanitized. Same with the sinks. That's something you're going to have to learn how to do, and of course we can help you with that, or your head custodian can help you with that if you have questions on, well, what happens when I'm short-handed? How do I spend less time in the restroom cleaning it? So you're also, one of your top priorities is assisting the after-school program, and we'll go into that a little bit more here in a few minutes, your role there. And securing the building. You're the building security there in the evening for one thing, but to make sure that that building is locked up before you leave for the night, so that it's secure and there's no break-in, well, not break-ins, but there's nobody getting in and stealing stuff. So again, building security is a huge part of what you do. If you've got a bunch of doors open, hallways and things like that, while you're going around taking care of say restrooms or trash because you're short-handed, make sure you remember to take the time you need to get that building secured, because that is one of your biggest priorities. So one of the lower priorities on your job list is to sweep and clean, buff the hallways. So when you're short-handed, some of that's kind of some of those corners, and that's where you can really cut corners, is in that particular area. But it is still important, if you have no sweepers, that you at least sweep your hallways and spot mop the spills on the hallways, that you at least get that done. So what do you do when you have no sweepers for the night? This is something you'll want to talk to your head custodian about and see how that is handled in the particular building that you're working at. Also, you need to start prioritizing and processing and thinking ahead of time, being a little proactive. Okay, if this particular sweeper isn't here this night, how am I going to make sure that this area is still covered? How am I going to make sure things get completed? So again, if you have questions on that, we can help you, but your number one resource for that is your head custodian. Emergency procedures. Now, as a new night custodian to a building, whether you've been a night custodian for years or whether you are brand new today, every building is just a little bit different. And with your emergency procedures, you want to make sure you know where all of the shutoff valves are. The main shutoff for the water, the main shutoff for the electricity, the main shutoff for the gas. Day one, you need to know where all of those things are. And if you need to write them down, there should be a map somewhere in the custodian's office that kind of shows those things, but make sure you know and that you can recall at any time where those are, because you never know when there's going to be an emergency and you need to shut those down. Okay, make sure you know where the fire alarm panel is and how to use it. We have several different styles of alarm panels in our buildings. So just because you know all about one does not necessarily mean the next building you go to is going to be the same. And of course, they put them in all sorts of different places. So it's very important you know where they are and how to use them. Make sure you know the chain of command and who to call in case of an emergency. And that can vary from building to building. Usually it will be your night supervisor at the district level, which would be Ricky, but not always. So make sure that you discuss with the head custodian the chain of command in your building and who to call in case of emergencies. A last resort when you have a emergency is to get a hold of Peak Alarm and ask them who the on-call person is. Make sure you tell them who you are and what building you're at. Keep in mind that the password for Peak Alarm, I know it's terrible, is very easy to find. All you need to do is ask your head custodian or any of your supervisors on the leadership team, and we can make sure that you know that. Okay, so carry your district phone at all times when you're on your shift. This is a huge part of emergency procedures. It's your way of having a lifeline to the rest of the world when you're there in your building all by yourself. It is for your safety and security, as well as if there's something that happens in the district that we need to contact a specific building. It's very important that you have this phone with you at all times. So don't just leave it laying in the custodian's office. And I haven't heard from any supervisors or anybody in 6 months. And why do I need to carry the phone? No, you need it. You need it. It is very important. Quite often, if we call you, it's for a very good reason. We're not just going to call to check in and see how you're doing. Well, okay, once in a while we do. But for the most part, you'll get a call and it's for something that's very important. And also, as you're out and about, you never know what you might run into in the way of vandalism, or what happens if you get locked outside the building by accident. Yeah, I've had that happen to me too. It's very nice to be able to have that phone so that you can call somebody to come and let you in. One of the things I want to emphasize at this point with the emergency procedures and a lot of other things, I talked about being that support for the head custodian. Sometimes the head custodian might forget, they might get busy, they might have a lot of stuff going on, and there's things they may forget to show you. Your responsibility, okay? Personal responsibility. Whether you are first night on the job or whether this is something that you've been doing for years, you need to make sure that you remind the head custodian, hey, I need to be shown where these things are. Could you please show me where the shutoffs are? Could you please let me know who the chain of command is or how the chain of command is around here? So don't be timid with those kind of things. It's not that you're being insubordinate, it's that you are being supportive. You're helping them so that in case something bad happens, there's an emergency, that you can support you can support the head custodian in being able to make sure the building is taken care of properly. So we're going to go to one of your primary roles as a night custodian is to be the recycler. So in our district, we have one of the best known recycling programs in the state, and actually our recycling program is something that is known in different places of the country. There's a lot of other school districts that would like to model what we do in our recycling program. So where did our recycling program come from? Was it something that the kids invented or the teachers invented? Was it something that we're just kind of a part of, so to speak? No. The custodians in our school district are the ones that took charge of the recycling program. They are the ones that really made this program a nationally renowned program that it is. Think about that. You as a custodian are an important part, an integral part of this nationally renowned program. Pretty cool, huh? So as a night custodian, why is it that you're the recycler? Well, I want you to think for a minute. Who deals with most of the trash in the building? The head custodian deals with the lunchtime trash, and so they deal with the recycling on the food level of things, so to speak. But when it comes to the building trash, the rest of the trash in the building, that's really the night custodian's responsibility to make sure that gets out. So then it kind of falls upon you to make sure that the sweepers are trained and that they know where the recycling needs to go and how it's done in your particular building. So that helps you to become the energy and resource manager in your building. So you think about it, the head custodian comes in and turns lights on. They're using energy. They're causing the use of energy. Yeah, they come in and turn lights on. You are the person that goes around and turns lights off. Now, a lot of lights are on automatic switches, I get that, but a lot of things aren't. So when it comes to paper and cardboard, all paper should be placed in the green fiber dumpster. Cardboard boxes should be flattened and placed in the green fiber dumpster. So you go out to dump some of the recycling and you find that there's boxes out there that aren't flattened, go ahead and flatten them so that there's more room in there. Don't think that it's somebody else's responsibility, even though it might be. Really and truly, you as the night custodian are the driver, are the driving force in the recycling program. Also, there's other recyclables. There's plastic or metal containers that should be recycled and placed in that little blue Ace can that we roll around currently. Think recycling. Think about recycling. Think about the paper and the cardboard. It's a very important part of what you do, because without you doing it, without you driving it, it would be a complete disaster. Think about how important your role is there for a minute. So lights. Turn off lights as you complete the work in each area. Gym and cafeteria, those are the ones that should go off first. I remember when I was a night custodian in a junior high, and I would go about doing my job of the hallways and the classrooms that I had, never really thinking much about what lights were on and burning all night long. One of the last areas I had to take care of was my gym, and I would go in to sweep the gym and take care of the locker rooms. The lights in that gym had been on pretty much since 6 a.m. that morning. And here it is 9 o'clock at night. And nobody's been in there since, say, 3 or 3:30. Wow, I should have turned those out long before then, because I burned a lot of electricity by allowing those lights to continue to run. So you as the night custodian, turn off lights as you complete work in each area. Check areas like the gym and the cafeteria. As soon as you know that people are going to be out of those areas, you should go in and just make sure that they get turned off. You're going to save some money, and that money can be used for other things that can benefit us all, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So water. Always listen for things that are running or should be shut off and report. So sometimes, quite often, you can hear a toilet running in your building. Or when you're cleaning the restrooms, you'll notice that a toilet continues to run. Make sure that that gets reported to the head custodian. If it's something that you can turn off or shut down or take care of on your own, then do so that we're not wasting a lot of water and the sewer charge that goes along with all of that. Okay, if you have sprinklers that are leaking outside, things like that, just look and listen. Okay, always look for things that stay on. There are some lights and some mechanical things that should actually be off, and sometimes they are not. So it's important that you are those eyes and ears in the building in the evening to make sure that things are shutting down properly. You get a feel for your building. Over a very short period of time, just kind of by instinct when things are supposed to be off, or when water is not supposed to be running, or when the fans are off, things like that, and it just doesn't feel right. because there's something not right here. I'm hearing something, or you know, there's lights coming from an area that there don't normally have lights on this time of night. So again, the kind of the feel of your building. You really are an important part of being that energy and resource manager in your building. Right? You got a lot of responsibilities, don't you? Yeah, it is. It's a very big job. Very big job. So, one of the things that you need to know when you go into a new building, whether you're a seasoned nighttime professional that's been night custodian for years, or whether it's your first day on the job, you are going to run into scary noises and sounds. Yeah, every building has them. They have their own scary noises and sounds. The first time I was a night custodian was at Emerson Elementary, and Emerson had just been built, mostly underground, and the problem was that building was still settling. So as you are walking around the building, you hear creaks and groans, and it sounded like the roof was going to collapse, and it would scare the heck out of me sometimes. So creaking is normal in every building, but you've got to learn what are the new creaks, the ones that are happening all the time, and don't be afraid. You think, oh my gosh, someone's up on the roof, and no, it's just the roof settling or the snow up on the roof that is causing some extra weight. So these are all things that you need to learn about in each building that you're at. Also learn which lights stay on, which ones go off automatically, which ones you need to turn off. And sometimes lights make a certain noise, depending on the way that the ballast is set up. Also, so just know what sound they make. When everything is quiet in a building, it's amazing what noises you will hear from a long distance away. Water. Water is something that you can hear, again, when it's quiet in a building. You can hear water running through different pipes. You need to know, are these pipes the ones from the roof carrying drain water from rain or from snow? Or is this water that's running in a toilet that, okay, I need to go find out where this toilet is running? So again, all of these noises are very important, but they're important for you to learn as quickly as possible. So moving on to think. Before you engage in any conversation with a sweeper, a supervisor, a school patron, or a teacher, it's important to think. So it's important to respond to people, but quite often we react to emotion when something happens, and we react out of emotion. We say things that we really shouldn't. So before you speak, think. And the acronym is, first of all, is it true? Is what I'm going to say true? You don't want to be making up a bunch of stuff, okay? Whatever you're going to say does need to be true. And is it helpful? Is this going to help the situation? Is it going to help somebody? Moving on to the next one, is it going to inspire? Is it going to be inspirational, or is it going to be something that tears somebody else down? Well, no, then you don't want to say it. Is what I'm going to say necessary? Not all communications are necessary. Now, you may be right. You may be right about something, and the other person might be totally wrong. But is it really necessary to prove your point? Is it really necessary to call them out on it? Okay, think about these things. And finally, the last one is kind. Always be kind in your communications with others. So the after-school program. I want you to think about something. As a night custodian, quite often we're in our buildings for years in that position as a night custodian. And, you get paid pretty good for what you do. But I'll tell you what, the after-school programs, the folks that help out in those programs, they make about what your sweepers do. So they're not making a lot of money, okay? They're not in a wonderful professional job like you are. And even the coordinators, your building coordinators in the after-school program, quite often this isn't their career job. Because you'll go through a coordinator every year, sometimes several a year. Okay, these are just folks that are picking up a little extra money, trying to help out in the school, doing this quote job. What did I say earlier? We are not in a job, we are in a career. We are professionals. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with the after school program folks, community ed folks. You really are the professional there at night, and you need to act that way. What that means is you always be kind and courteous, always helpful, because we are in a service oriented job. Try and help them out with whatever it is that they need help with, they need set up. But also keep in mind that they haven't had, quite often, near the training that you have had. And so they're trying to do their job the best way that they know and understand to do. I can pretty much guarantee they haven't had any training when it comes to personal relationships like you folks have had. So give these folks a break. You don't need to go in and be the authoritarian and tell them, well, this is how things are in this building. No, 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 no. That's not being professional. You always want to be that, what did I say earlier? That mentor. Think of yourself as that mentor to help mentor this community ed coordinator. Because you know what those folks are doing? Those folks are doing a very important job. They are there helping these kids after school, keeping them occupied with things that hopefully are some education value to them. Sometimes they're just social value, but you know what? It's valuable for these kids, and it's very important that you help support that. Okay, what are yours and Community Ed's cleanup responsibilities? Well, those expectations do vary from building to building. So you need to talk with your head custodian and find out what those are. And how do you handle issues and disagreements? Well, again, use the THINK acronym before you respond. Before you say something that it might not be necessary and it might not be right. So again, talk with your head custodian and get a little bit of background on your after school program. But remember, we are there to help and support them. It's also very important that you hold your subordinates accountable. So one of the biggest problems that we have with night custodians is they try to be the friend, they try to be the buddy. And let's say a sweeper has a library to have to clean, and there's complaints that it's not being cleaned properly. So how should you handle that? Should you say things like, well, would you mind getting the library tonight? I'd really appreciate it. No, that's not how you handle things like that. You need to be more assertive by saying things like, hey, we did get some complaints that the library wasn't done to the standard that they wanted it done. What's going on? Maybe there's a good reason. Quite often, the sweeper will tell you, oh, there was a bunch of people in there working, or whatever it was that I couldn't get to it. So that makes it a whole lot easier to say, okay, well, would you please make sure to get that tonight? And then you know what you need to do? That accountability part, that follow-up. You need to follow up and check and make sure that it got done and got done properly. Holding them accountable is very important, a very important part of this whole supervision / mentor part of things. Doesn't mean you're being a jerk, it means you're doing your job. Communication and leadership. So with your sweepers, it's important that you train your sweepers. Training isn't telling them, hey, go do this, hey, go do that. Here's how you do it. Training your sweepers means you take them and you show them. Sometimes you have to show them personally how to run the vacuum, how to change the bag on the vacuum. Okay, training is a very important part of what you do, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of time. It really doesn't. Discipline is part of this. Making sure, again, you hold them accountable, and when they don't do the things that they've been asked to do, particularly after they've been asked a couple of times, you need to make sure that you're a key part of that discipline. And this is something you do together with your head custodian. Keys. You are the one that is in charge of making sure that they get their keys handed to them and that they hand them back to you at the end of the night. Do not leave keys laying anywhere, period. just because you think it's convenient that the sweeper can drop their keys off on the desk and you'll get it when you go back in for lunch. No, absolutely not. The keys are to be handed to you when your sweeper is done for the night, and you need to make sure that you hand them their keys when they start their shift. Again, follow-up is very important with your sweepers. And one thing that I can't stress enough, be kind to your sweepers, because they are very hard to come by. Remember, that job doesn't pay a lot of money. And these kids, most of them, well, they're just trying to get a few extra bucks. So be kind to them. Make sure that you mentor them, that you train them. You do need to hold them accountable, but by the same token, you don't need to be that harsh authoritarian with them. It's also important, part of communication and leadership, to have a logbook or a journal that you keep with your head custodian. You need to journal the things that happen at night on your shift so that the head custodian knows what has happened that evening, and vice versa. They're going to tell you things that you need to get done or that may need to be done on a specific night, and you just need to make sure that in this logbook that you answer back, yes, this is what we have this is what we've taken care of. Now, again, on the rare occasion that you'll get into a building and a head custodian is not using a logbook to communicate with you, well, this is another one of those opportunities to say, well, how about we start one? You don't have to say, oh, well, I was told we have to have one. No, that's not how you handle that. But you could say, hey, how about we start one? How about we start having a communication book? I'd really like for you to be able to write things down so that I can remember what I need to do tonight. And then I'll write things down so that you know what I've done. So there's very good ways that you can approach that if there's not currently one in the building. Again, night custodians are there to be that support for the head custodian. Not to point out every little flaw, but to be the support. So you are also the equipment manager, believe it or not. I know the head custodian's got a lot of responsibilities too, but really managing the equipment is something you need to take the responsibility of at night. Keep in mind that every building has a little bit different equipment. Some have a different model of auto scrubber or a bathroom cleaning machine. Also keep in mind that with the auto scrubbers, you don't need to use those every day. You can alternate scrubbing and buffing. You only really need to scrub halls once a week, unless it's winter time or it's really rainy, something like that. But the important thing is that you sweep and spot mop on these other days. That way it gives you more time to burnish the floors. And if you burnish almost every day, the nice thing is every once in a while when you don't have time to burnish, well, your halls will still look good. Okay, battery maintenance. Check it and charge it. Check the water levels in those batteries and make sure that you log all of these things. Again, you're this equipment manager. You're making sure that you're the support for that head custodian. When they go to use that tomorrow in the cafeteria, you want to make sure that it's ready to go for them. Vacuums, make sure the bags are emptied nightly. This is something you just follow up with your sweepers. Have your sweepers do it, and you follow up and make sure they're doing it. You need to inspect the straps, though, so that they can wear it properly. Make sure that they're washing the filters weekly and that they're changing the bags on a bi-weekly basis or as needed. And also make sure that the cord is being inspected before they use it. So show them how to do that and make sure that that cord is being cleaned once a week, and show them how that needs to be done. And again, set the expectation, and all you need to do is follow up. Follow up with them. If you don't follow up, then of course things are going to go awry. But if you follow up, then they know that, hey, they're going to be checking and I need to make sure this is done. With any dust mops you have, make sure that you shake them out thoroughly every night. Make sure that you treat them with dust mop oil once a week. And if you have any questions on how to maintain your dust mop properly, ask the head custodian, or you can ask any of the leadership team and we can help you with that. With your burnishers, your buffers, you need to make sure you dust them off after every time you use them. End of the night, make sure it's dusted off. You rinse the buffer pad weekly, take it off and rinse it out. Friday was always the day I would do it. Make sure that you clean the filter that's on the top after each use. And there's a can filter there that needs to be done once a week. And also you need to make sure that you're checking the oil in your burnisher. So with lockup and alarms, make sure that you are turning off the handicap doors every night. Because what happens if they're locked and someone comes and pushes that button, it tries to open and it burns out the motor. Or if you leave it unlocked and someone pushes that button outside in the middle of the night, the door will just open right up and people can walk in the building. So make sure to turn off the handicap doors at night. There's a switch for them. Ask your head custodian where that is. If you do set the alarm off by accident, make sure you call peak alarm. Very, very important step. So let's say you've already locked up the building and you forgot one door. Oh, I forgot to check this one door, and you go pull on it and it pulls open, and now you set the alarm off. Don't just leave it. Don't just reset things. Make sure you call peak alarm and let the so that they can let the on-call person know that this is a false alarm. Buffer smoke, it'll set off the alarm. If you tip the buffer the wrong way, sometimes if the buffer's overfilled, it'll let out a big old puff of smoke, sets off the fire alarm. Call peak immediately. Let them know what's happened. They still may dispatch fire, they may not, but it's very important you call them and let them know. Otherwise, the fire department's going to go charging in thinking that there's a fire. For a power outage, you can call one of us on the leadership team. Call Rocky Mountain Power also to report the power outage, and sometimes they'll say, you don't even get to report it because they'll say, oh, there's an outage in your area. Oh, okay, sure. Make sure the generator's working. So find out from the head custodian, where's my generator? And make sure that it's working. You'll hear it, okay? Check your grounds for down power lines and report back to us when the power is back on. So as far as outside security, this is very important. Every single night, you are to go outside and walk around your building at least once. Now, you don't have to do it at the end of your shift, but you do have to do it at least once. And usually it's after most people are out of the building. You need to make sure you pull on every one of the outside doors and you check for any open windows or broken windows. Also, make sure to check your roof hatches and make sure that they are locked and secured. What time of day should you be checking your outside doors? Well, I would say the earlier the better. Most of the doors to the building are locked anyway with the security plan that we have in place. So it's very important that you check them as early as possible, while you still can. I mean, you might have a lot of people in the building, so you don't want to check your doors then. But it's important to check them as soon as you can, because if you find a problem, you're going to need to call somebody. If you can't figure out how to get that door secured, and if you're calling somebody at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to get a carpenter out there to fix that door. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. So if you find a problem with a door that it won't secure properly, contact one of the members of the leadership team, and we can help you figure out what to do with it. So requesting time off. As a night custodian, you need to ask for permission. One of the things that we've gotten away from is actually being that subordinate. We've gotten into this part of, hey, I'm going to be off tomorrow, or I'm going to be off next week. Oh, really? Oh, well, who said? Oh, well, I got this thing going on. Well, how about you ask? So yeah, how about you ask for permission? It's just a courteous thing to do. Okay. So ask your head custodian, hey, I need next Tuesday off. I've got this thing going on. The head custodian is going to request for a night rover, not you. You don't need to be calling and saying, hey, do you have a night rover available that could come fill in for me? That's not your position to have to do. The head custodian will take care of that. Okay, have a backup plan if the night rover isn't available, which quite often that's how it is. We've got so many vacancies at night that quite often we've got to have an alternative plan. So it's a very good idea to train a sweeper to be that backup lockup person in your building. And it's pretty easy to do. It's actually very valuable for you. It allows you more flexibility in taking time off during the week. It's also the head custodian's responsibility to cover your shift. Okay, and the head custodians have been told this, that, hey, if so-and-so is sick, they are sick, absolutely sick. They need to be off. I'm sorry that we don't have a night rover available, but a head custodian's responsibility is that whole entire building. Okay, so they need to figure out a way to get that covered. If you have a backup lockup person that you've trained, then you've just solved your boss's problem and things are going to be great. But if that hasn't happened, well, the head custodian's going to have to figure out a way how to cover that building. All right? So I think that's going to do it for today and our training. I know this took a little bit longer than we normally would do, but we felt this was very important to cover some of the things that you would run into as a new night custodian in a new assignment. So this is the end, as you can see, the caboose. And if you have any questions, contact a member of the leadership team. Thank you very much for watching.